In a packed auditorium in Los Angeles, tensions reached a boiling point as a Catholic nun publicly tore apart a copy of the Quran, challenging Islam with biting questions about its practices and beliefs. But what happened next was unexpected. Her words ignited not anger, but a profound dialogue that would lead her down a path she never imagined, culminating in a life-changing decision witnessed by hundreds. This wasn't just a debate. It was a journey into the heart of faith, truth, and transformation. The auditorium in Los Angeles was filled to capacity, its atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. People from all walks of life had gathered for what promised to be an intense debate between two prominent figures representing Christianity and Islam. On one side of the stage stood Sister Maria, a devout Catholic nun known for her sharp intellect and unwavering faith. Her piercing blue eyes scanned the audience as she adjusted the crucifix hanging around her neck. Across from her sat Aisha, a Muslim woman whose serene demeanor belied the strength of her convictions. Clad in a modest yet elegant hijab, Aisha's presence radiated calmness despite the palpable tension in the air. As the moderator introduced the topic, a comparative analysis of religious beliefs, Sister Maria wasted no time diving into the heart of the matter. With a voice laced with both passion and skepticism, she began by targeting one of the most sacred traditions in Islam, Qurban Idul Adha. Why, she asked, her tone dripping with disdain, do Muslims feel the need to slaughter animals during this festival? Does your God truly demand bloodshed to feel satisfied? Her words hung heavily in the room, sparking murmurs among the crowd. Some gasped audibly at her choice of language, while others exchanged uneasy glances. But Sister Maria wasn't done yet. As if to drive her point home, she picked up a copy of the Quran that had been placed on the table and held it aloft before tearing it apart with dramatic flair. Pages fluttered to the ground like fallen leaves in autumn, each one carrying centuries of wisdom now reduced to fragments. Gasps erupted throughout the auditorium, some voices rising in protest, while others remained silent, too stunned to react. It was a moment of sheer audacity, one that seemed designed not just to provoke, but to inflame passions further. Aisha, however, did not flinch. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her dark eyes meeting Sister Maria's with an intensity that silenced even the loudest whispers. In a voice steady and resolute, she responded, "If that is your stance, then I am prepared to answer every question you have about Islam." Her words carried a weight that resonated deeply within the hearts of those present. There was no anger in her tone, only a quiet confidence that spoke volumes about her belief in the truth of her faith. The room fell silent once more, all eyes fixed on these two women who now represented far more than themselves. They were emissaries of their respective religions, standing face to face in a clash of ideologies that transcended mere words. "Sister." Maria took a deep breath, gathering herself after the initial shock of Aisha's composed response. She straightened her posture, her hands clasped tightly together as though bracing for battle. Then, without hesitation, she launched into her first question, a query so bold it left many attendees holding their breath. "First," she began, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "why do Muslims go on Hajj to worship the Kaaba? Isn't it true that you're bowing down to a mere stone? How can something so lifeless possibly represent the greatness of your God?" Her words struck a chord among the audience, stirring emotions ranging from curiosity to outrage. For many non-Muslims, the concept of pilgrims circling a black cube in Mecca appeared strange, even incomprehensible. Sister Maria capitalized on this misunderstanding, framing the act as nothing more than idolatry disguised under the guise of piety. Yet beneath her confident exterior lay a flicker of doubt, a subtle crack in her armor that only the keenest observers might notice. Undeterred, she pressed onward, delivering her second question with even greater fervor. "Second," she declared, leaning closer to emphasize her point, What proof do you have that your God actually exists? If he is real, why hasn't he revealed himself to us in a way we can see or touch? Show me evidence, right here, right now, or else how am I supposed to believe in something so abstract? Her challenge hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down, daring anyone to rise and meet it head-on. Finally, Sister Maria delivered her third and perhaps most incendiary question. "Third," she said, her voice rising slightly as emotion began to seep into her delivery, "why are there so many Muslims who become terrorists? Is violence really an inherent part of your religion? Or are these acts merely the work of extremists who distort your teachings?" This final query sent ripples through the crowd, evoking a mix of nods and frowns depending on individual perspectives. Some applauded her courage for addressing such a controversial subject, while others recoiled at the implication that Islam itself was inherently violent. By the time she finished speaking, the atmosphere in the auditorium was electric. Every word she uttered had been carefully chosen to unsettle, to challenge, and ultimately to discredit the faith of her opponent. And yet, for all her rhetorical prowess, Sister Maria could not help but feel a growing unease deep within her chest. Somewhere amidst the fervor of her attack, a tiny voice whispered doubts she dared not acknowledge, not yet at least. Aisha listened intently as Sister Maria hurled her accusations, her expression remaining unchanged despite the storm raging around her. When the nun finally paused, Aisha exhaled softly, as though preparing herself for the task ahead. Then, with deliberate care, she began to respond, her voice smooth and measured, yet imbued with an unshakable conviction that commanded attention. "To your first question," she started, addressing the issue of the Kaaba, "you must understand that the Kaaba is not an object of worship. It is rather a symbol of unity, a focal point where millions of Muslims gather to reaffirm their devotion to Allah. We do not bow down to a stone. Instead, we direct our prayers toward the place sanctified by Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. It represents the essence of monotheism, reminding us of our shared purpose and connection to the divine." Her explanation lingered in the minds of the listeners, forcing them to reconsider preconceived notions they may have harbored. Many nodded slowly, recognizing the logic behind her words, but Aisha was far from finished. Turning to Sister Maria's second question, she delved deeper into the nature of faith itself. "Regarding the existence of Allah," she continued, her voice gaining strength, "we cannot perceive him directly because he transcends all physical limitations. However, his handiwork is evident everywhere we look, in the intricate patterns of the stars, the rhythm of the tides, and the beauty of creation itself. These wonders serve as testament to his power and majesty. To demand tangible proof would be to limit the infinite, which goes against the very definition of divinity." At this revelation, several members of the audience found themselves nodding, in agreement, their skepticism giving way to admiration for Aisha's eloquence. Even Sister Maria appeared momentarily taken aback, her usual composure faltering ever so slightly. But it was the answer to the third question that truly left an indelible mark on everyone present. "Concerning terrorism," Aisha stated firmly, her gaze locking onto Sister Maria's, "let me make one thing crystal clear. Such acts defy the core principles of Islam. Our holy book, the Quran, explicitly forbids killing innocents and spreading chaos. In Surah An-Nisa, verse 92, it states that taking even a single life unjustly is akin to murdering all of humanity. Those who commit atrocities in the name of Islam do so out of ignorance or malice, not because their actions align with true Islamic teachings. To equate the deeds of a few misguided individuals with the entirety of a religion is grossly unfair and misleading." With each word, Aisha's arguments dismantled the misconceptions perpetuated by fear and misinformation. By the time she concluded, the room was utterly silent, save for the soft rustling of papers and the occasional sniffle from someone moved to tears by her heartfelt defense of her faith. Having addressed Sister Maria's queries with clarity and grace, Aisha decided it was time to turn the tables. Leaning slightly forward, she fixed the nun with a steady gaze, ensuring her next words carried maximum impact. "Now," she began, her tone gentle yet firm, "allow me to pose 3 questions of my own, one for each of yours." Her first question came swiftly, striking at the very foundation of Christian theology. "Why?" she asked, her voice tinged with genuine curiosity. "Was Jesus crucified on the cross? Who crucified him? And why? If Jesus is indeed God incarnate, how could he allow himself to suffer such humiliation at the hands of mere mortals? Surely, a deity should possess the power to prevent such indignities, yet history tells us otherwise. Can you reconcile this apparent contradiction?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Sister Maria opened her mouth to respond, only to close it again moments later. Clearly, she had not anticipated such a direct challenge to one of Christianity's central tenets. Meanwhile, the audience watched with bated breath, intrigued by the depth of Aisha's inquiry. Emboldened by the stunned silence, Aisha pressed onward. "Second," she continued, her voice growing softer but no less compelling, "did Jesus ever explicitly claim to be God? Is there any explicit statement in the Bible where he declares himself divine? Or has this belief evolved over time through interpretations and traditions passed down by men?" This time, the reaction was immediate. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people debated amongst themselves, some defending their beliefs while others admitted uncertainty. Sister Maria shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her earlier confidence beginning to waver under the weight of Aisha's relentless questioning. Finally, Aisha delivered her third and arguably most profound question. "Is Jesus God, or is he a man?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying immense significance. "If he is human, how can he simultaneously be divine? And if he is divine, why does Scripture repeatedly refer to him as Son of Man?" These contradictions force us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of divinity itself. How do you reconcile them? As she finished speaking, the auditorium fell deathly silent. Tears glistened in the eyes of some spectators, moved by the raw emotion underlying Aisha's words. Others sat frozen, grappling with the philosophical dilemmas she had raised. And Sister Maria, though still seated, looked visibly shaken, as though the walls of her long-held beliefs were beginning to crumble under the pressure of scrutiny. What followed would prove to be a turning point, not just for her, but for everyone fortunate enough to witness this extraordinary exchange. The auditorium seemed to hold its breath, as if every soul present was suspended in a moment of profound stillness. Sister Maria sat frozen in her chair, her hands trembling slightly against the edge of the table. The questions Aisha had posed, each one cutting deeper than the last, had struck a chord that resonated far beyond mere theological debate. For the first time since the event began, the nun found herself at a loss for words, her usual eloquence replaced by an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Her mind raced, searching for answers to questions she had never truly confronted before. Why was Jesus crucified? Did he ever explicitly claim divinity? Is he both God and man, or neither? Or perhaps something entirely different? These were not new questions, but ones she had always taken for granted, trusting that the teachings of her church provided sufficient explanations. Yet now, under the weight of Aisha's calm yet relentless inquiry, those explanations felt fragile, almost inadequate. Sister Maria glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of those who watched her with rapt attention. Some looked sympathetic, others skeptical, but all bore witness to her struggle. She opened her mouth several times, only to close it again, each attempt failing to produce the clarity she so desperately sought. Her face flushed red, not from anger, but from the sheer effort of grappling with ideas that challenged everything she believed. In that silence, a transformation began to unfold, not just within Sister Maria, but among the audience as well. Many leaned forward in their seats, captivated by the raw emotion playing out before them. Others exchanged glances, whispering softly about the depth of Aisha's arguments and the sincerity behind them. It was more than a debate. It was a confrontation with truths long buried beneath layers of tradition and dogma. And as Sister Maria struggled to find her voice, the room became a vessel for introspection, each person reflecting on their own beliefs and the foundations upon which they rested. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Sister Maria lowered her gaze, her shoulders sagging slightly under the weight of realization. She did not know the answers, and worse, she realized she might never have known them fully. In that moment, humility replaced defiance, and a crack appeared in the armor of certainty she had worn for so long. The silence in the auditorium deepened, thick with anticipation and unspoken emotions, as everyone waited to see how this pivotal moment would unfold. With a slow, deliberate motion, Sister Maria raised her head once more, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She took a deep breath, steadying herself before speaking, her voice barely above a whisper, but carrying the weight of countless revelations. I don't know the answers, she admitted, her words hanging heavy in the air. The admission was simple, yet profoundly powerful, echoing through the hearts of everyone present. All this time, I've accepted these teachings without questioning them. I followed what my church taught me, trusting implicitly in doctrines passed down through generations. Her voice cracked slightly as she continued, the floodgates of emotion opening wide. I thought I understood, but now I realize how much I didn't. How could I judge your faith when I haven't even examined my own deeply enough? Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop a testament to the internal battle she had waged over the past few minutes. I was wrong to insult your religion and tear apart your holy book. Please forgive me for my arrogance, my ignorance, and my lack of respect for the truth.